This podcast is brought to you by the Chicago History Museum, where the World's Columbian Exposition is placed with ancient information regarding the World's Fair in Chicago. See Chicago's history truly unfold with the help of historical information and Chicago's background. For more information, visit www.chicagohistory.org. My name is Sneh H, and in this podcast, I'm going to prove to you that there is a true reasoning behind everything we do. Starting off with the pure comparisons of two different types of people. And I mean totally different. I was observing these different traits between good and evil. Wide range, I know, but let's take a focus on the evil part. Do you believe someone who performs evil actions just does this because they can? Or maybe because it's fun? Or maybe because they just want to? Whether it be a friend who wrongs you or a bad breakup. A lot of evil things people do is directly related to the way their brain works, so mentally, and then perhaps their past experiences, so emotionally. All of these are psychological traits. I mean, people don't perform actions just because they want to. There's always mental reasoning behind everything. Are we on the same page yet? Probably not, or maybe we are, but that's okay. Let's dig deeper. By the end of this podcast, I can't force you to believe me or force you to believe what I'm saying because obviously psychologically, everyone's brain works differently. You think what you want to think or you think what you are influenced to think. But that's the thing. You do good things due to psychological instincts. You do bad things, well, also due to psychological instincts. It all relates back to the way our brains work. Something as little as pathological lying is considered a common trait of a psychopath. Does that mean we're all evil psychopaths now because we lie? No, but there is always a reason as to why even a good person can perform evil actions. These actions are solely due to our emotional and mental state of mind, causing someone who is considered a psychopath by society to do the manipulating and twisted things that they do. According to the American Psychological Association, the right dose of certain social situations can transform ordinarily good people into evildoers. This research then further talks about how someone could have the best intentions ever, but depending on the situation and their instincts, anyone can have an evil state of mind. So here's the thing. I came across the story of someone who was considered a psychopathic serial killer versus someone who was considered a motivated and determined architect for the Chicago's World Fair. Both people with two totally opposite ways of working towards what they want, but all back in relation to the World's Columbian Exposition, where the serial killer would bring his victims to and where the architect was busy directing the works of the World's Fair. But let's get back to the real point here. Perhaps there was a reason why the serial killer would murder, skin his victims, and then sell them. Maybe it was due to psychological reasoning, through his past experiences perhaps. So I dug a little deeper. Again, there has to be a reason as to why any man would go around killing these innocent people, manipulating multiple women, and then throwing them away like it's nothing. And so I found some more information on this man's childhood. Turns out he was practically bullied growing up. So could that have been the reasoning behind his doings? So I decided to call a friend of mine, to get more personal background information on this topic. He's actually certified in therapy and works with children and youth. He claims that more than at least 75% of the patients that he deals with are the way they are due to their past experiences or childhood exposures. Whether it be dealing with abusive parents, growing up or experiencing traumatizing events, or even getting bullied at school, exposure to these things is what causes them to build up this anger and perform negative actions as a form of letting it all out. Which logically, it makes sense. You do as you see, because that's what you're used to, especially as a child, when you're still learning about yourself and the life that you're living. So could this really have been the case with this serial killer? Well, let's look into this more, but let's introduce our two main focuses first. Here's the introduction of the two different people this podcast is going to be exploring. In the month of November in 1894, serial killer Dr. Henry Howard Holmes was arrested for murder and the use of human bodies for his experiments. In this podcast, I'll unravel the psychological differences between the architect Daniel Burnham and the serial killer H.H. Holmes.